Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Industrious Podcast. Thank you all for joining us today, wherever you get your podcasts or on the Accessa YouTube channel. Again, if you're on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, please do so. We would appreciate that, and hit that little notification bell so you can be alerted when new episodes like this one drop. As you can see with today's setup, we are missing my partner in crime, Joe. Could not make it for this episode, so we will forge ahead and look for him on the next one. Want to say a special welcome to our guest today. Today we are joined by our Accessa's Sales and Business Development Manager for the East, Mr. Kevin Fine. Welcome to the Industrious Podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. As we do with everyone, why don't you provide a little introduction of yourself?
Okay. Again, my name is Kevin Fine, Business and Sales Development Manager for the East. I am a native New Jerseyan. Born out.
You can let the accent come out during this episode.
Well, what happened is because my family's really from, New Jersey's two states.
Okay.
There's a north and there's a south. Okay. So the North Jersey people kind of focus on New York. Southern Jersey, more Philadelphia.
Okay.
So when you combine that, I think you get like a Midwesterner accent. So it all works out in the end. So again, grew up in South Jersey, a little bit outside of Philadelphia. But again, my family was from North Jersey, so we were Giants fans in Eagles country. So I always learned.
How'd that go over?
You learn to lay low. You don't get too vocal. Maybe you wear, instead of blue, you wear gray shirts or something like that to a game. But it made it exciting, and I think it taught me to blend in at a very early age to be able to get to different areas and still enjoy what you want to do.
Right.
So, like I said, South Jersey. Went to Rutgers University, the state university.
Keeping it in the Big Ten. Of course, it wasn't Big Ten then, but it is now.
Well, I'm jumping ahead, but in 2007, I moved to Indiana.
Right.
And so, of course, we were playing decent football in the Big East at that point in time. I've been doing pretty well, and I'd get to a road game in Pittsburgh or something like that. But I always messed with everybody. I mean, this is going back to when I first moved there, and I said, Rutgers will be in the Big Ten. Oh, shut up. You're an idiot. I was like, no, you go with it. Just hear me out. It's a major, large research university, like over 50,000 students.
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, yeah, it's actually a big school with teams and everything. So I always held by that belief.
What made you think that, though? What made you think that they would join the Big Ten at some point?
Because it's the perfect profile. It's a major research institution, everything you want to possibly major in. And we've always referred to the sports side as we're the sleeping giants. All we got to do is actually invest in the programs and not treat it like it's an Ivy League or a Patriot League.
Yeah.
And we could get there. And so, it's kind of like always rooting for the underdog, but you have all these resources behind you that like one day it could grow up into being this thing. So that's why I always said, yeah, we could play in the Big Ten. Yeah, why not? So it was always a good joke. So again, moved out here in 2007. We had two little ones at the time. Our third child was born out here, Amelia, in Indiana. And then in about 2012, we moved to Arizona and then ended up coming back to Indianapolis, right when Rutgers moved into the Big Ten. I'm kind of jumping ahead, though, on the sports side. Yeah, it worked out really well. But, career upbringing, after Rutgers, I got this really crazy idea that I wanted to have my own restaurant. Always loved food, liked cooking, and saw myself in some sort of business environment, possibly, a little entrepreneurial, wanting to have my own thing. So out of college, I took a pretty much minimum wage job cooking in a restaurant. And they're like, oh, college boy, we'll throw you right on the line and see what happens, make fun of you. So I worked in a couple restaurants in Philadelphia and learned the industry. We kind of did some fine dining, and then I worked in one restaurant that was kind of like short order, but from scratch, kind of country down home cooking, and worked really, really hard and learned a lot about the business, learned how to cook, learned a lot about, interpersonal skills and in literally figuratively the fires of the kitchen.
Yeah.
And after a couple years, I was like, maybe I learned a lot here, but maybe this isn't my calling. I hadn't seen a football game in about 2 years and hadn't seen a weekend in about that long. Right. So I was, well, let's try something else. And I found an opportunity in industrial sales in the Philadelphia, South Jersey area.
Did that come from any exposure to it in the restaurant business?
That was just pure connections.
Okay.
Just knew some people, and I was asking around and looking for some opportunities. And he's like, "You're looking for something? Come on, talk to me on Tuesday, your day off, and we'll see if it makes sense for you." And it was in industrial cleaning or professional cleaning.
Yep.
So, company repaired, sold different cleaning materials and equipment into Center City, Philadelphia, and surrounding area. And I did that for a few years. Really interesting in getting into industrial environments, looking at different applications. I mean, kind of like in our coatings world, how many different materials you could use for different applications. Same things goes in cleaning or in prepping surfaces, things like that. So I did that for a bunch of years, and then grew into, we had an aftermarket division in the service side where we sold parts and things like that to repair. So I kind of worked with a network organization to sell those products around the country. And there I got my feet wet I handled procurement. It was a small organization, but had been just acquired by a larger corporation. And so I got my feet wet in purchasing, dabbled a little bit of marketing. Hey, you're going to be also the sales guy in this operation. So from a company standpoint, they used to joke that the company was kind of my tinker toy. There was a lot of things I could do there.
Yeah. Were they a distributor or were they the actual manufacturer? Or
kind of a quasi situation,
okay.
Yeah, where we bought products, redistributed them out, and we did some light manufacturing of some of the items as well.
Okay.
So, just kind of saw a lot of different things in industrial applications that, kind of helped me out today.
Who was your typical customer?
Typical customer was, they're kind of atypical. There were some guys, one guy, standalone van that would go out and could repair things, or it could be a large janitorial supply house,
Yeah.
all the way up to, major, corporations that you'd hear working in the, hospitality sectors.
Right.
So it could be anything.
Did you find that one of the aspects of selling for them, similar to what you probably see today, which we'll get into, but is the fact that you're not selling to the exact same industry, same market, same type of person every single day?
Oh, yeah. You could be, something could be it could be schools, it could be hospitals, to universities, to sports complexes.
Right.
And then later in that life, I got some opportunities, which brought me into Arizona to work in what we called professional cleaning.
Okay.
So as opposed to institutions, we were now dealing with cleaners that were going into homes.
All right.
Could also do commercial work as well, right? There's office buildings and things like
Yep.
that, but these were people on the front lines, doing cleaning and disaster restoration in residences.
Does that include the cleaning out of scorpions?
It could. You hear a lot of stories.
Yeah,
in cleaning.
You shared a story the other day about
Yeah,
that. I can't remember how it came up, but
scorpions, black. Hey, this is a big country with a lot of different terrain, and you find a lot of different stuff. Yeah, the cleaning world there's a lot of interesting comparisons to what we do, in the size profiles and different complexities of the business. So
yeah. For those intrigued by the scorpion comment, there was a story there that you can go into if you want, or maybe not, but for the sake of his marriage, scorpions weren't very well received when they moved to Arizona.
No. Well, we moved out to Arizona, and that was when I was, from a work standpoint, was working more in disaster restoration,
Yep.
flood work and damage to structures. And so in that office, I got a call probably my second week in Arizona from my wife, Rose, saying there's a scorpion on the shower curtain. and we are not going back into the house until this problem is handled. It's like, okay, all right. Well, I had a cousin in the area, and I said, I need a guy. He sent me a number, Dan, the exterminator man. Call him. Guy's great. He comes out, says, oh yeah, I'll take care of all these problems. Knock out the scorpions. Oh, took care of that. I mean, just dropped whatever material they use. Everything was eradicated around the perimeter of the house. So I'm walking around, sweeping up all the little bits and pieces of, spiders and scorpions, things like that. And I come across, oh, look at that, a black widow, just kind of sitting there. And you see the two, triangle red on the belly of the thing.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that neat? You don't see that every day. So I snapped a picture of that. Let me put that right on Facebook.
Oh.
Got another phone call. What is that? Oh, that was a black widow. They're gone now. So you can all come back. So yeah, the desert gets a little real when you see some of those things.
How much longer after that experience did you guys move back to Indy?
It was about 2.5 years later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So after that point, the heat and the reality of the desert brought us back home again to Indiana.
Right.
So,
well, we're glad you guys came back. When you came back to Indy, were you still with the same company? 'Cause I mean,
same company.
Same thing.
Yep,
okay.
Same company. All of my customers, because the way it kind of evolved was most of my customers were still in the Midwest. So, I could fly out of Sky Harbor in Arizona, but it became a lot easier. Like if I just looked at where all my customers were, Indianapolis, I was still coming out to Chicago, St.
Right.
Louis, Ohio, Kentucky. So it got to the point where, I mean, do you care if I move back?
Right.
Like, no, I was like, actually probably save everybody money. They're like, yeah, go for it. So that's how we got back again. And it worked out best. Like I said, I have my deep New Jersey roots, but the kids grew up here. Mm-hmm. And those are the things like they don't tell you, like your circle from preschool, that kind of becomes your network. I mean, that's who the kids grew up with. So, we transitioned, right back into, Indianapolis living, and, for everybody, it's home.
Right. Well, then to, I guess, jump a little bit, you're now coming up on 3 years, having been with the Accessa family, if you will, or Team Accessa, as we like to call it. So as I mentioned earlier, Kevin is sales and business development manager for the eastern portion of the country, of our geography and our markets that we cover. I guess if you could provide a 3 years in the rearview mirror, how would you describe the past almost 3 years?
Probably the most fascinating, topsy-turvy, up and down. I mean, a lot of ups. I mean, things have been great for these past 3 years, but we all know, I don't, how many times has the word pandemic been said on a podcast? Right. It's like, I don't even want to say it anymore. Yeah. But I mean, we have lived and worked together through like some of the most extraordinary times, right? I mean, there's going to be history books written on this time. So, it was like 6 months in, okay, guys, get ready. Here's all these regulations and everything that we have to go through. We still have to maintain, let's keep we want to get this thing going.
Right.
So, that it's been an interesting challenge. But working with this group at Accessa has been great. It's been invigorating from a career standpoint. This will sound corny and cliche, but what I used to say, in presentations and stuff, I was working with professional cleaners, or in the U.S. we use the term janitors sometimes, right? Not exactly the most exciting job, but it's an important job.
Sure.
And I used to always say to everybody, when they're doing that job, you are in one of the most noble professions I know. There is nothing better than providing, whether it's a school or a business or a family, with a safe, clean environment. I mean, what's better than that? So, you know what? Yeah, we're not, driving race cars around a track, but we are providing an important service, an important, valuable service. And I think, and kind of looking at things that way, we can look at our business and say, we do industrial coatings. Okay, well, that's neat. But when you look at, some of the projects that we do, whether it's, on the wood side with cabinetry, furniture, you're providing people with that first impression of that kitchen that they're going to have for how many years, or that dining room table and set of chairs that a family's going to sit around. Through their best times, through their worst of times, you're involved in that process. Yep. And that's about, that's as good as it gets, right? I mean, we're working on, and that's what I really love about this team that we work with, is we get excited about that stuff. I think of, Patrick in Ohio looking at the live edge tables that he might be working on, some of the commercial jobs that Jeff and Cal are working on. Brian may have, some coding getting done in an NBA arena.
Right.
It's neat stuff. I mean, we see really cool pictures in really cool places. And I think at the end of the day, you can, take some pride in that. You absolutely can. So
yeah. Well, I think the diversification that you saw in the cleaning side then extended into this position with the fact that you're not just managing reps on the coating side, but managing reps on the chemical side and now the equipment side as well, which kind of overlaps with the same reps.
Well, kind of ties in a little bit sometimes.
Is it fair to say, maybe I'm speaking for myself here, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would you say it's fair to say that the different manufacturers that we go into, really runs the gamut? I don't know if you feel the same way, but for me, like the little engineering nerd inside says it's really kind of cool to see how stuff's made.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't tell you how many times I've walked out of a place like, who the hell came up with that process or that idea to create whatever widget it is that's being made? Do you feel the same way?
Absolutely. Well, I love those shows like How Are Things Made?
Right.
Or, when guys are telling me about projects that they're working on, we kind of get geeked out on it. That's really cool and it's exciting. And I think what's good about that is, like we talk about, we don't have sales reps, we have consultants.
Right.
And when our consultants are engaged in the process and they're excited about it, that translates over to the customer. Yep. And now we're all on the same team trying to knock something out. And when something's good and it goes well, we high five. When something's bad, okay, let's get this corrected, because we all want this to work out. We all want excellent results. We all want to be able to post something on LinkedIn or Facebook or send a text to, whoever and say, hey, check this out. Check what we just did.
Is there any, is there any instance that sticks out to you in terms of either one or two things, either one, a moment like that, or B, you went into a certain place or a couple of places and it just, I don't know, you were wowed, or you just felt intrigued by what that process is, how we may or may not play a role in it, that sort of thing?
There's been so many. There was one, it was a smaller project, but I thought it was interesting. It was a business getting off. They were making shin guards, soccer shin guards.
In the U.S.?
In the U.S., and they're out of bamboo.
Okay.
And they were having coating problems, and to the point where it was, possibly some impact, to the business, that not being able to get products out the door. And very quickly, we were able to find, a polyurethane solution that gave them the finish that they were looking for, what they were dreaming this product to look like, so that they could start shipping them out to, little soccer players, professional soccer players. And
so being a soccer dad, that obviously
being a soccer dad, I was like, right on. I'm thinking about getting my own custom pair. But that's definitely a time. I think I really like seeing some of the tables that get made, whether they're commercial or going to a resort. Or some of these, like we're seeing some of these large live edge tables that are getting used. The craftsmanship behind some of these things, I think that really where it gets fun, and then you can see guys getting excited about the project, and that's going to make a big impression wherever that's going to be. whether it is at that resort or in somebody's table or, walking into the foyer. Somebody's happy to get it.
Yeah. Chemical side, you had sort of some of that terminology translated over from the cleaning business. What sticks out to you from in that area?
I think the technical ability to be able to provide a good working solution, it just becomes mission critical.
Yeah.
Right. Some of these products, when we're looking at the metal side, some of the specifications are, well, we just need to make sure the paint sticks. Okay, got that. We can understand that. But then you get into some of the other specifications, the different testing that they go through. Your accuracy needs to be, at a much finer point to it. So I think that's where you kind of really need to listen, take in all the expectations, and know coming in, this is what the requirements are from the customer, and those things don't budge. So I think there's a little more science to that than art form, perhaps, on the wood coating side.
Right. I was going to say, what are your likes and dislikes, but that's maybe a little bit too generic. But what, I guess, the last 3 years aside, pandemic aside, there's been, it's the market's been crazy.
Yeah.
What challenges would you say are top of mind? And maybe these are just challenges that you see, regardless whether it's Accessa or anybody else for that matter. But what would you say is the biggest challenge or two that your consultants are facing today, or that you're facing today?
I think the challenges have been right now, I would say, if you asked me that 6 months ago, supply chain being erratic,
right?
Where are materials going to be coming from? I'll say from my standpoint, when things really started coming down, we had concerns from a supply chain standpoint. I think the Accessa team did a remarkable job, and this comes from, having procurement experience in all the waves and challenges coming up. Our ability to keep materials on the shelf was unmatched. I'd put it up against anybody in any industry to be able to fill the needs of our customers. It was pretty impressive to be able to do that. There's still going to be issues coming down here, and I think that's one of the things that's challenging, is where further down the supply chain trough, if you will, is the next little, right. Oh no, we're out of that little raw material that's now going to hold up something. I think those are the challenges. I think we've done a good job of trying to be, as forthcoming that there's going to our customers, that there's going to be challenges on the supply chain side. We're always going to be trying to come with a solution if there is an issue. So I think that's probably been one of the big things. I think when you read the newspaper, everybody's looking at prices going up and things like that. You look at the fuel costs. People notice it at the grocery store. We're no different. Right. All those things impact us. So I think looking at solutions for people that, where can they be more efficient? Where can they streamline? Or are there any other solutions to the current products that they're using that could boost their efficiency? I think we need to be mindful of that and say, all right, well, how can we help here? Mm-hmm. So, because there's pain points all around. So what can we do to ease that pain?
Right. So then what's your prognostication for the rest of the year?
I really think things in our industries are going to be strong. Going well past Christmas. Mm-hmm. It's funny. We're into June. Summer's going to be gone in a blink. Right. Am I allowed to snap on a podcast?
Sure, yeah.
All right, good. That it's going to be fall before we know it, and then as we know, but orders are still coming in. People are looking for finished goods still, and I think just talking to the customers, they feel pretty comfortable and confident in what their lead times are and how much work they have to do. I felt like last year we were saying the same thing. Well, talk to me first quarter of 2022, and I'll let you know what I think.
Right.
I think we're going to get well into the holidays, and I think people are going to have some work to do, and then we'll recalibrate come spring of 2023.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to talk that far in advance, but I think we all have to do that.
Right. I think what we have seen is people are still booked out quite a ways. The supply chain has, while it's been extremely painful, and I guess the hardest part is the constant ebb and flow. Like, just as soon as you think we're okay here, all of a sudden something pops up over there, and vice versa. And we've had a handful of products where only one raw material out of the 10 or 12 that maybe goes into that product is suddenly on back order, and you look at it and it's maybe even just 1% of the formula.
Yeah.
But you're like, yeah, we can't leave that out like that. We have to wait on that, and that just backs everything else up. I think that has also been a major factor in extending the bookings, if you will, that customers have. Mm-hmm. So it's going to carry on, but at some point, that will get through the system. When that is and what it looks like beyond that, I guess remains to be seen. Is anybody's guess. So I would agree with you. I think the rest of the year will be strong. I mean, aside from supply, the pricing constraints are absolutely nuts. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, we've had to do our fair share of price increases. We only pass along what we receive from our vendors, and they've been plenty. What would you say you want your market? I mean, as a sales manager, you're managing a group of consultants, whether it be coatings consultants or chemicals consultants. What do you want the market to think of, not just the company, but to think of your consultants that you manage?
I really want them to look at us as a set of eyes, a set of hands, and a set of ears that can help improve their processes. With these challenges with pricing and all those things, we're all hearing those things, but I think it's important that we're another set of hands. We are, in essence, a free consultant to their business. And if you look at our group and their technical capability, their experience that they have in the field, they're as good as any, and they're engaged, and they want to help find solutions. And based upon, with our sales team, management team, and our vendors, kind of going up the whole supply side, we have the resources to solve problems. Mm-hmm. So I think, it's like one of those 80-20 rules. You want to listen 80% of the time, and it's about hearing all those things and hearing all the stories and seeing, where can we help? Where can we reduce some time here or reduce costs? Right. Because the opportunities are still out there. That's one of the challenges, I'll say, especially of this market right now. Everybody's so busy that if it's working, if it ain't broke, I ain't fixing it just yet. So getting people's attention sometimes is a greater challenge, because, talk to me in 90 days. And then that 90 days comes up, well, I just got more orders dropped on. And it's like, okay, we'll be back. We can talk. Yeah. When you're ready, when everybody takes a deep breath, there's plenty of projects coming out there, and there's plenty of new looks or needs or demands that people are looking for, and we're ready to talk about those things when you can get a moment and sit down for the cup of coffee. Let's do it.
Right. I think it's very safe to say this is a very relationship-based business. But then it has to, extend beyond that, which we really view both our relationships with our customers, but also relationships with our vendors, being a distributor that we are. It's a partnership. Mm-hmm. Anybody can buy something from this manufacturer and turn around and sell it to the end user, but to try to provide that, value add, and I know that term is used almost too much out there, but to provide that value to really help make that vendor want to do business with you, and then ultimately to want that end user to buy from us. It's all about relationships and partnerships, and as you mentioned, assisting them or being their resource, and not just saying, hey, will you buy this from me?
Yeah, I think the relationships are key. And the other thing, kind of hitting on, when I was thinking, you're talking about, our vendors and the good relationships we have with them. What I've always liked about Accessa is we don't apologize for, our products are the top of the line. And maybe that's not for everybody, but they're very good products. And there's not a lot of times where, maybe some things go wrong. But in the end, you're probably still using the right materials. Maybe we just got to work on the application or some different things. But long time ago, I made a deal with myself that I would always sell top products that I am happy with, that at the end of the night I can go to sleep knowing that I put somebody into a quality product.
Right.
And I think when I came on board with Accessa, those were some of my questions to try to understand how our products fit into the marketplace. And I think, along with relationships, like you said, go grab a bite to eat or something like that. But in the end, you need a functioning product. We can be friends.
Right.
But if your product doesn't do the job for me.
Correct.
All right, thanks for the cheeseburger.
Yeah, so we are definitely not a Yugo dealership. Nothing against Yugos, but it's just not what we do.
There's a time and a place for all those things, but and I think that's kind of how also we set our sights on customers that are striving to be the best or looking to use optimized systems or optimize their materials, and we can be a good fit.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate what you do for us, for sure. If you guys ever want to know how to identify Kevin when he's on the road in the eastern portion of the Midwest, just look for that big R, that big Rutgers magnet on the back of his car. That pretty much is kind of the identification, at least that I see.
I can get you one.
Because there's not a whole
when
lot of
need
those
it.
around
Yeah.
it.
No, there's not. It's pretty. You see the block R, you probably know it's a good chance it's Kevin Fine driving somewhere in your vicinity. So.
Right. Well, hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of the Industrious Podcast. We appreciate what you do for the company. We appreciate what you do for our partnered customers, as well as our vendors. So I guess keep on keeping on.
Will do.
All right. And thank all of you guys for joining us today on this episode of the Industrious Podcast. Again, wherever you're getting your podcasts, or if you're watching us on YouTube, on the Accessa YouTube channel, that is, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it, and we will see you next time. And don't forget, be industrious.